Borough President, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Tim and Laura, to the team, everybody who brought us together tonight. If there's one thing that can bring the entire borough together, it's certainly the Van Wyck, which I think all of us notice is we have a shared experience on the Van Wyck. I think I'm 42. I know this project is older than me, so it's a great evening to really get some good news and get some real updates. And I don't want to make the promise that it's almost over, but I think the state DOT, I'll leave it for them to say. But I did have the pleasure a few months ago now, going out. I think it was the coldest day of the year, and we were so excited about the tour, we didn't even postpone the construction tour of the Van Wyck because we're passionate about getting it done. And I was having like a very firm discussion and great discussion with the state DOT commissioner who I traveled to London with sometime in, I think, November or December with the Regional Planning Association to study how London gets their transportation projects done and done in a timely fashion. And I just couldn't help myself in saying, only if we can get the Van Wyck done before, London produces a whole new train line. But I do want to give hats off to the construction manager for Region 11, Dalian Abraham, and project manager Luis Aristi, who are on the line tonight, who you're going to hear from. And I really want to thank them for their hard work because you're going to hear how complicated this project was. And while, we often, when we think about roads, just think of concrete being, uh, put on a road, a new concrete. This was really a huge infrastructure investment in Southeast Queens that I think is going to really address a lot of the infrastructure challenges we've had for a long time. So while there might have not been work apparent to you, we would often hear, well, we don't see people working, but there was a lot of underground work where people were working with who you would not necessarily see. And I think when we were out there and on average, you had about 450 workers. But once again, a lot of those individuals were working underneath the road because this was a huge sewer undertaking as well. But I'm not here to defend and say it needed to take 42 years, but I can't go, backwards. We have to move forward. And, one of the things I'm happy about as well as we talk about congestion is we now have a $20 billion investment in JFK. And you're gonna see as we widen, as they open up, and I got the tour where the widening is gonna happen. We're gonna increase capacity, which is gonna speed up commute times, of course. But also, I'm excited about a HOV lane that will go straight into the airport now. So rather than having airport traffic merge with people from Southeast Queens or people going into Long Island or the Rockaways, we now will have a dedicated lane to head right into the airport. But I'm not going to get into the tidbits on that. I'm going to allow them to get into the details on that. But I want to thank you all. I often joke that one of the reasons Queens is the most diverse county in the United States of America is because we all end up on the Van Wyck together, and then we just end up never leaving the borough. With that being said, I really want to thank once again the union workers that I met out there, the fantastic teams who've had a big undertaking. And just a fun fact that I learned, which I didn't really understand, is that the ocean ran up to Linden Boulevard, which also complicated this project as well. If you didn't know, the Atlantic Ocean actually ran up to Linden Boulevard. But happy to say that we're making a lot of progress on the infrastructure front. And just another project I wanted to just segue into quick, which is going to connect to this project, is we are extending a huge sewer into Idlewild Park and Springfield Gardens, in which water is going to flow underneath the airport into the bay. And that is going to help us, especially for Southeast Queens, to alleviate a million a million gallons of water a minute, a million gallons a minute that will be pumped out of Southeast Queens, which is going to significantly lower our water table. I got to actually hang in that sewer, by the way. That's how large the sewer is. And this project is a part of connecting to that as well, which means that we can really reduce the water table significantly. But once again, who knew that the ocean ran up to Linden Boulevard? And that was one of the fun facts I learned on the tour. With that being said, I want to thank you, Tim. I also see Mohammed Sadiq, our lead engineer for Queens County, who is my engineer, but your engineer as well, who we have to sign off on a lot of these projects. And I just want to thank you all for 100 years of patience in getting the Van Wyck done. But I promise you, when we cut the ribbon, we're going to have a party on the Van Wyck Expressway. With that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Tim, and we're going to have like a real dance party, and we just all going to celebrate on the Van Wyck. And I once again thank you to the presenters tonight. It was a pleasure to be out there with you. You're some of the best public servants I've ever met. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, BP, and we're definitely gonna have a big party. You're all invited to that one. With that, I'll actually pass it over to Laura, who will properly introduce our state DOT reps.
All right. So yeah, I'm Laura Shepard, Transportation and Parks Liaison, and I'm proud to introduce Daleen Abraham Billeen and Louis Oristi from New York State DOT, and they have a very thorough presentation to share, and let them get right to it.
First off, I would like to thank you guys for inviting us tonight to present on the Van Wyck, and I would like to thank the board president for the kind words. Appreciate that. And I know a lot of people have been, driving on the Van Wyck. It's been a long haul, and we understand that. And I think we're getting to the finish line, so I'll be happy to say that to you guys. We did put a presentation together. I am the project director and also director of construction for Region 11 for New York State Department of Transportation, and Louis is the project manager or engineer in charge for the project. I will get us started, and at some point, Louis will take over the presentation. Just let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? I have a lot of stuff on my desktop.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, we're gonna do selection from Megan. Okay, so the Van Wyck, it's a capacity improvement. The Van Wyck Expressway is a capacity improvement project, and it's basically spanning from basically Kew Gardens Interchange all the way to the westbound connector, which would be about near Federal Circle going into the airport. The purpose of this project is to enhance traffic safety between the points that I mentioned, so the Kew Gardens and JFK. We did make some improvements to, operational improvement, geometric improvement, structural deficiencies are being addressed on this project. So there's a lot of things happening that may not be that visible to you, but there's a lot of things on this project. The anticipated benefits, obviously, we think there's going to be improvement with safety, because when we have that dedicated lane, you're not going to have people trying to make their exit to go to the airport, and they're trying to make, go from the left lane all the way to the right to make an exit. So it's a dedicated lane that's going to take you straight to the airport. The Port Authority also has a project that we're meeting with. It's called the Westbound Connector. So at where we end, they start. And this will take you to Terminal 1 and 4 at the airport. And then we're building a loop ramp that's going to take you from the Van Wyck to the Nassau Expressway to JFK, that expressway that will take you to all the other terminals that you need to reach. We anticipate there will be reduced travel time, again, because you have this dedicated lane. You don't have to mix with the other the traveling public, but you're going to have 3 dedicated lanes on the right for people going in and out of the Van Wyck, and then you have this lane that you enter, but you cannot exit until you get to the airport. So basically, once you get in, it's a straight shot to the airport. We anticipate that it will reduce truck traffic as well on the local roads, because now with this added lane, and we have these 3 other lanes, so the trucks can go on and there'll be better movement on the Van Wyck. Just in general, I wanted to touch base on some of the mitigation that we did throughout the project. As far as we did noise mitigation, we have a plan that's submitted by the contractor. We do air noise monitoring. That's a normal thing. Dust control, rodent control measures that we have. We do have a community liaison for the project that if you need information, you can reach out to him. or reach out to either one of us, Lewis or myself. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. We do provide notices, and that's the community liaison will send that out, or our executive office, our main office is in Long Island City. They will send out those notices when we're making changes to traffic patterns, if we're changing, we're closing lanes, just so people are aware of the changes so you could plan for your travels. There's a lot of coordination, like I said, with the Port Authority, especially on the south end of the project, because they are working there. So it's very, it's tricky because anything that we do affects them and vice versa. So we have to be on the same page when we're doing any lane closures. And any complaints that come in, we try to address them as soon as possible, whether it's like potholes, refreshing striping. We just had these two major storms. So right now we're in the process of going out and we're going to be doing pothole repairs and some striping refreshment, because that way people, don't get into accidents and your car's not damaged, obviously. But we had to wait for the snow to melt to be able to go back. And if it's raining, we can't do that. So bear with us. We're aware there are some areas that need some improvement, but the contractor is going to be taking care of that as soon as possible. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background on the Van Wyck. I know people know that we've been there for a while, but just for your reference, this project consists of 4 different projects overall, right? So the first one that we did was, I don't know, can you see my cursor? Can you guys see where I'm pointing right now? Or
Yes, we do.
okay, so right now, Atlantic 6 was the first project that we did. So this was for Long Island Railroad. So what we had to do in order to provide this extra lane, we had to widen the Van Wyck. In order to do that, we ended up having to take care of the bridges first. That was the first step. We had to push back the abutments. So this was the prototype that we did, and that was done in 2020. It was completed at the end of 2020. So it's a smaller project, but that's the first one that we did as a design build. The second project, which was contract 1, and that's all the ones that you see in red here, that was about 9 bridges that we had to do. Lewis was also the project manager on that. And we widened all these bridges in order to make that space. That project was completed at November of 2023. Currently, there are 2 projects for state DOT going on the Van Wyck. It's contract 2 and contract 3. Contract 2 is around here. It's for Long Island Railroad and 1 regular bridge that we have. And contract 3, which is the big one that everybody sees, is the one that spans all here in yellow. It's about 4.8 miles, I would say. And that's the widening, and that's the one that we're adding the lane. And that's the last step for the Van Wyck. So I'm just going to speak a little bit about contract 2. As I mentioned, we have a double-decker bridge on that contract that we're retrofitting, which means we're still keeping the same footprint, but we're making improvements. We're changing some of the steel, the bearings, and things like that. We also have mainline 1 and 3. The next slide will show you these bridges. I just want to tell you what it is right now. So that was completed already. We did it on 2 super weekends. I don't know if you guys remember this. We had a 1 weekend that we shut down the southbound Van Wyck and we rolled in the bridge. And then we did the same thing for the northbound. And that was the first one was in April. And then the second one was done in October. So, and then finally, we have the replacement of 94th Avenue Bridge and Atlantic Avenue. That was completed in 2024. So right now, the only bridge that we're working on is the double deck bridge on that contract. So, and we expect to be done on this project in spring of 2026. There's some, work on the service road. There's going to be some paving done. So just to make sure it's in good condition when we leave. There was a wall done and also a lot of utility. And that's what the board president was mentioning. There's a lot of utility work that's underground work that you don't see, but that needed to be done first. So one of the first things that we do in the contract is do all our utility work. So that's one of the reasons that maybe people were driving by and didn't really see much progress, because that needed to be completed first. So just so you get the graphics of how it looks like, mainline 1 and 3, that's the one that I said we did in 2 weekends. This is the double deck. So you have the lower portion and the higher portion of it. And finally, Atlantic Avenue Bridge, which was completed as well. I just wanted to show you guys a couple of construction pictures. Obviously, this is not the case. We were doing some of the concrete, and this is just doing construction. You can see how it looked like. But right now, that bridge is completed. This was for the mainline 1 and 3. As you could see, what we did, we assembled the bridge. We had a little staging area just north of there where we put all of the steel together, and then we put it on this machine and we rolled it in and put it in place. So we had to do that over the weekend, needed a lot of coordination with Long Island Railroad because you needed outages. They had to change the tracks for some of the trains. They couldn't go on that track over that weekend because we were demoing. So we would demo the existing, pull it out, remove it, and then push the new bridge in and kind of put everything in place and align the track. So we work really closely with Long Island Railroad for that. And this is the final product when it was completed. Once we put, that's the new bridge right now. Contract 3, as I mentioned before, is the biggest one. It's the one that has the biggest footprint, and that's probably the one that probably impacts people the most due to not only the footprint and the amount of work that needs to be done. So we split it up in 3 sections. However, just to give you a general idea, we're adding an HOV lane, as was mentioned earlier. It's an HOV 2+ lane, so you need at least 2 people in the car, and there's no trucks allowed on that HOV lane, but there can be vehicle for hire on that. So you can have Uber or a taxi, but they at least have to have 1 passenger in the car. We're doing a lot. There's a lot of changes to the ramps. A lot of these ramps are mostly done. We have 3 ramps that are left, but they're on the north end of the job. We do need to do some paving. Obviously, we couldn't do that with this, the storms that we had, and we have to wait for temperature. So probably in April, you'll start seeing more of the paving being done. We did these bridges. So there's 1 new bridge, which is the MUL, and that's the HOV. We called it managed use lane. So that's the new bridge that's the only new bridge that was done. The other ones are basically retrofitting and widening. We did a bunch of retaining walls, and when you go by, you'll see it. There's like some nice patterns on them. They look really nice, I would say. There's about 17,000 feet of that we're building. There's 12 new noise walls that we're doing, about 10,000 feet, and they range from 8 to 28 feet. What I will say, you'll see the noise wall. It's easy to see which ones they are because they're the ones with the clear on top, the acrylic. Because one of the reasons we did that is because people that live off of the service road, typically when you have a noise wall, you basically block out the sun. One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that people don't lose that. So we ended up having this acrylic on top of the walls that still gives you light, and that people don't feel like, they're completely, like, they can't get any sun, especially on their property that's on the off of the service road. We have a ventilation shaft that we did, and that's for transit near Main Street. That's all underground. You guys wouldn't see that, but that was a lot of coordination with transit that we had to do. A lot of utilities, a lot of, like, we're putting new cameras, we're putting new lighting, we're putting new signals, we're doing ADA. So off the service road, you're going to see some of the ADA ramps. We're going to be upgrading those. So there's a lot that's going to be done. And then finally, I believe the BP mentioned this, the double barrel sewer that we did. So we only did a portion of it. It's like the middle section. It's about 2,000 feet of that we built. It's completed. We did that part already, and it's underground, so you wouldn't see it. And then I think when we get further on, Lewis will show you some pictures and you can see how big this is. But this is a big undertaking because we had to pump the entire time. The water table is very high, so we had to have a lot of pumps on the site and it was continuous pumping while we were doing the work in order to place concrete and do all our work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So that was a bit of an undertaking, and we finished that last year. So as I mentioned, the MUL, this is kind of a rendering that shows you the MUL in either direction. Like I said, it's a 2+ HOV. And on the right, you could kind of see how it looks. It's a 12-foot lane and there's a 2-foot buffer, and then you have all the other lanes. So once you're in the blue section, that's what takes you in and out of the airport. And like I said, you can't get out. Once you get in that lane, it's either you're going to the airport or you're going all the way into the other side. And I'll show you the limits on another slide, but that's basically it. There is an enforcement area. So we typically don't do enforcement, but we did provide 2 areas where the police can be stationed at, and they could give tickets. So be mindful of that. This is just to show you the overall MUL. As I mentioned, on the right, you could see about around Hillside Avenue all the way to Federal Circle. That's the limits for this. I got a little graphic, a little something for you guys. So this is where it starts, and then the end of it is all the way on the other side. And this is where the Port Authority has their job that meets our job. This is the loop ramp that I was talking about. So you have the MUL going into the airport this way, and then you have this loop ramp that takes you to the other terminals. And as I mentioned before, these would be your 2 enforcement areas, one for the northbound and one for the southbound. There are a lot of cameras, and I believe we have a joint traffic management center that they'll be looking at the cameras. So if anything happens, if somebody breaks down, they could always call NYPD. The police is at the joint traffic management center, so is City DOT. So they all have eyes on this once we're done. Louis, do you want to share your screen? I'm going to stop sharing now. Louis?
Yes, Daleen, I'm sorry. Well, thank you everyone once again. Well, as Daleen have said, I am the engineer in charge for the project. And this picture over here is just a little rendering of how it's going to look. Right over here is one of the new ramps that we built by one of First Avenue. And as you could see, excuse me, most of the ramps, we kind of either push it back or push it forward, because at the beginning, the landing, it was right at the intersection. So it was a safety hazard for the public. Over here on the left side, this is looking north on the Van Wyck. We could see the HOV going all the way down to Main Street, well, all the way to Hillside to be exact. And then from there, people will be able to go either on the Van Wyck or the Grand Central Parkway, as they will. There will be 3 additional lanes, as it was at the beginning on the Van Wyck, plus the extra lane. This is another picture on how the service road is going to look. This is close to Jamaica, heading into Atlantic Avenue. As you could see over here, we have the sound wall, in which we had the acrylic on the top portion, as Daleen has said before. And this is to allow the sun to get into the houses, and just so people do not feel like they are in a jail. So there will be at a minimum 2 lanes on the service road. And we will be some of the service road at this time, as you may see, those people living in the area, they are like kind of beat up, but we will mill and pave the entire service road from Hillside all the way down to 133rd Avenue. This is just a little topographic view of how the section by the Bell Parkway is going to look. This over here, as we go, this is going to be the Nassau Expressway. The belt will be down here. This is the north conduit and the south conduit. We just rebuilt all the ramps in the area, and they will be functioning. Well, some of them are already in service. All of these ramps coming from the north conduit, they're already open. And the Nassau Expressway is already completed. And this section over here right now is what the MUL is gonna be. In the very near future, as I said, we should be opening all of this area. This is the famous double barrel sewer that we have built. So it's about 200 feet. It was a challenging project, just that this section over here, because as Mr. Borough President has said at the beginning, I didn't even know myself neither, but the ocean back in the days used to go as far as Linden. So all of this work in this area, we have to do it on piles. So it was a little challenging, as I said, because this structure, the water table is extremely high. So we had to have pumps running 24/7. Otherwise, by the time we come in the morning, it will be flooded with the ocean water coming into the work site. So we've been pumping water over here on a daily basis for the last 2.5 years. Thankfully, this work is already completed, and then DEP will finish it in the future. This is actually how the double barrel sewer looks. As you can see, this is actually how it looks from inside. It's 2 chambers. So you could actually put a truck through each chamber. So it is massive. So the whole idea with the double barrel sewer is on if the area get flooded, so all the water is going to get into this section over here. And between the wall, this is only one chamber over here. There's another one adjacent to it. And in between, we have windows that in case if one of the chambers get filled, it's just going to overflow to the next one as a factor of safety. So the airport is right over here, and the Nassau will be back here. This is the east end of the double barrel sewer. And this pipe over here, as you can see, these are PVC pipes that you see. Those are the ones that we've used to keep pumping water throughout the construction. Over here we have, this is a little outdated. Right now, all of this section, all of this area over here is already completed. So this is gonna be, the northbound Van Wyck over the Bell Parkway that is right underneath down here. And this portion over here will be the southbound Van Wyck heading into the airport. And this portion, this bridge over here is going to be the 2 lanes of the MUL HOV going into the airport. The HOV going into the Grand Central heading north will be over here on the left. So these are 3 independent bridges over the Bell, north and south conduit. This area is just, we have some drone pictures. So you have an idea where we're talking. This is the hospital, the Jamaica Hospital. And this is looking north. This is the southbound heading into the airport. And this is a construction time. So right now we are building the new entrance ramp right after, just north of Atlantic Avenue. So we're gonna have a ramp coming in here. And then right immediately, we're gonna have an exit ramp going to Jamaica. Yes, to Jamaica Avenue. So this ramp over here, we kind of push it back once again. The original ramp used to land right at the intersection. and that was a little problematic because people that wanted to make a right into Jamaica going east, then they would have to go through all the lanes, and it was an imminent danger for the public. So on the other side, by the hospital, excuse me, this is the hospital side. Right now, we have an entrance ramp into the southbound Van Wyck. The final configuration at this location over here is going to be an exit ramp going to Atlantic Avenue. We are in the process of just starting to construct this ramping here, and hopefully that should be done within the next few months. Over here, some of the complaints has been that it has taken a lot of time, and we fully understand. But it takes a lot of time to actually build the roadway. So we put a new drainage system in here. Most of the structures, as I said, they are on piles. And over here, what we're doing is just constructing the concrete base. So this area, then we're gonna put a 3-inch asphalt overlay. This portion over here will be by closer to Main Street. Main Street will be back here, Queens Boulevard. This is the 86th Avenue Bridge, the pedestrian bridge. And this bridge, what we did, this pier over here, we had to demolish it in order to accommodate the new extra lane. So we demolished this one and we put it right in the middle. And that's where now we will be able to have the additional lane in this area. So this is the begin, just about here will be the beginning of the MUL, the HOV lane, which is going to go, this is the southbound Van Wyck, and it will end over here also at the north end by closer to 86th Avenue. Right over here is closer to the JFK airport. The JFK will be a little north in here, a little south in here. This is coming off the airport. This is the northbound Van Wyck. And over here, we have the ramp coming from the Nassau Expressway into the northbound. As you could see, this bridge is already built, fully built. And this one over here is the new bridge that we built on the project, which is the MUL bridge, which goes right above the southbound Van Wyck. So what is going to happen now, people will not have to get into the airport in order to diverge into the different terminals. Instead, out here, they will be able either to decide if they go into terminal 7, 8, and others, they will have to go east over here. And if you're coming on the HOV, which is going to be right over here, then you're going to have to loop down. If you're going to terminal 7 and 8, come down here, and then they will go east into the JFK Expressway, which is going to put them into the east side of the airport. If anyone is going into the other terminals, let's say terminal 4 or 5, they will be able just to continue straight either on the MUL, or if they got, for example, if anyone get into the Van Wyck, into the southbound Van Wyck going into JFK Airport, they will come on the local, which is going to be right over here, just the same way that they used to come into the airport over here, and then just go straight down to the terminals. Okay, once again, this is going to be the local Van Wyck. This is going to be the HOV coming south. And then if anyone is heading into terminal 7, 8, they will come down here into the loop ramp that we are building as we speak. And then they're going to head east into the JFK Expressway, and they will be able to reach those terminals at that side. If you go into terminal 1, 4, and 5, then people coming on the HOV will go straight down into those terminals. Or if they come in locally, then they kind of come right over here. One of the things, all of this area over here, we're going to be planting a lot of beautiful trees all throughout the project. We have about 2,800 trees that we're going to be planting throughout the project. And over here, this section over here, since the water table, as I said before, is extremely high, so we are building what is called a bioretention basin, which is going to be like a man-made lake in case if the drainage system, the new drainage system that we're putting in here, if it's overflowed by any case, then the water by gravity is going to go into this man-made lake. And then when the water goes down, then all this water that accumulated here is going to go back into the system to get treated. I know everyone may have a lot of questions, but feel free to ask as we go. Any question?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to add, there's a couple things too. So not only are we working with Port Authority closely there for the MUL because they're doing they're splitting the airport. That's why we have to have the MUL going to 1 and 4 and then the loop ramp going to Nassau Expressway to JFK because that's how they're splitting the airport. So that's why we had to build it that way. So just so you know the intent behind it, it's because of what's happening at the airport. That's how this came about. And then as Louis mentioned, there is going to be a lot of planting at the end. We're going to do all the striping, all the walls are going to be nice. We're going to clean up everything because I know right now it doesn't look as great because, during construction, but the plan is to clean up everything at the end of the project and make sure that it looks nice and that people are happy with what they see when they're driving on the van ride.
Thank you, Daylene. So over here, we're having a drone picture of how a better understanding how it's going to look. For example, this is the Rockaway exit ramp coming from the airport. If you're going to exit Rockaway, this is the exit ramp. Now we push it back a little more. We have the retaining wall coming in here. We have the sound wall with the clear portion on the top that it will allow the sun to go to the houses. Then if you're coming from the Nassau Expressway, then you will be coming on this section over here. The airport now is going to be, people coming from the airport will be on this area over here. The HOV lane will be on the left. And as it goes down, this is the staging. So as Daylene had explained before, these bridges have to be retrofitted, meaning extended east-west in order to accommodate the additional lane. So at this point, this is not in complete mode. So we're still doing all the work on stages in here. So I would say that in about a week, we're going to be pushing traffic. We're going to finish this area over here. So we're going to push this traffic closer to this wall in here so we could finalize any work in here. And then finally, once we do all of this movement, finish up with the drainage, any drainage that is still pending, then we will top pave, meaning the very top paving will be performed throughout the entire project. The reason why we haven't done this is because we would like to give a nice and clean project at the end. So right now we are paving partially as we go, but the final paving will be done when we clear everything, and we're going to do everything in one shot, stripe it. And I see some of the people, some of you guys that have been asking the cameras and all that stuff. Just remember, the camera is just to monitor traffic. It's not to monitor people. And now the new drainage system, since we increased the area of the pavement. So that's why we have to now increase also the drainage system in the area. That's why it has taken a little longer, but we should be done within a few months. That's a promise to the public. Yes, and this should be the last project on the Van Wyck. And that will be it from our side. Any question will be more than welcome.